What's up guys, MizzoFrizzo from Pitchfork Academy here, and in this Unreal Engine 5 tutorial I'm going to show you how to set up television screens or display screens that will display media source files or videos. And as you can see here, they're kind of projecting light based on whatever video is playing. I've just got a couple of videos here. They're just screen recordings of me messing around in the game animation sample project. They're not very high quality, but they're just here as an example. And as you can see, if you look at the floor in front of these screens are sort of projecting a light based on whatever video is playing. As a bonus, I'm also going to show you how to activate Megalights, which is Unreal Engine 5.5's new experimental feature that allows you to have many light sources in your project, all being movable and dynamic and casting shadows in real time while remaining performant. So without further ado, let me show you how to do this. Alrighty guys, so all I've done is create a new project using the third person template, and for the record I am using Unreal Engine 5.5 because I'm going to be playing around with Megalights today, Unreal Engine 5.5's new experimental feature, but you don't have to be using 5.5 or Megalights. If you're not using 5.5 or you have no interest in using Megalights, feel free to ignore anything in this tutorial to do with Megalights. But with that being said, I'm going to show you how to switch on Megalights. So if you just go to Edit and Project Settings and search for Megalights, you'll find Megalights right here. I've already enabled this, but this will probably not be enabled by default, so just enable Megalights. And if you hover over Megalights here, you'll see in the last line of that description, Megalights requires hardware ray tracing. So if this is grayed out, it may be because hardware ray tracing is disabled in your project. So to switch that on, you can just search for hardware ray tracing, and right here under hardware ray tracing, support hardware ray tracing. So you want to enable that because Megalights requires hardware ray tracing. So with that being said, Megalights is now enabled. Let's go ahead and create our television. And the very first thing I'm going to do is create a new folder. So I'm going to right click and go to new folder, and I'm just going to call it media. And inside media, I'm going to create a couple of new folders. I'm not even going to name them. I'm just going to literally call them new folder and new folder 1. And I'm going to import some videos that we can use to play on our televisions. So I'm going to right click and go to import. And I've just imported this video. It's just a video of me messing around in the game animation sample. Nothing special, but I will include a link to a zipped video file. Again, just of me messing around in the game animation sample. It's recorded at 1440p, so I don't know if you want to, find a video in 4K or something to try out this method, but it's there just in case you're lacking videos to try it out with. So now that I've imported this file media source, it needs a media player. So what you can do is you can right click and go to media and media player, and you need to check this checkbox here, video output media texture asset. Check this and hit OK. And you'll see it creates this media player and also this media texture right here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this media player, and then down here you've got all the media sources in your project. I'm going to double click this one, and I'm also going to check over here in the details panel loop so that this video loops, and that's literally all we need to do in here. We can save this and close this, and now that this texture has been created, we can actually use this texture to very easily create a material which we're going to apply to our television. So if I just use one of these cubes, for example, and I drag this media texture onto the cube, it will create a material that has been applied to that cube there. So this is the material that we're going to use. I can now delete that cube. That's all I wanted to use it for. And this material right here, I'm actually going to take it out of this new folder and drag it up to my media folder and move here. And then I'm going to go out to my media folder and open up this material. And I'm going to do a couple of things in here. The first thing I'm going to do is take the RGB right here and plug it into emissive color. And this just makes this sort of texture sort of come through as not being so dark. You know, we're going to use this material as a kind of master material. So if you ever wanted to make changes to the material on your televisions, on your screens, you could do it in here. So we're going to basically create a dynamic instance of this material for each television that we place in our world. And to do that, we kind of need to expose this texture as a parameter. So we're going to right click here and we're going to convert to parameter. And let's just call this media texture. And now that that's done, we can apply this, save this, and close this. We don't need to do anything else in there. That is our material. But I'm going to go back into the new folder here, and actually I'll just hit save all. And I do believe that's everything we need for our television. So let's create our blueprint for our television. I'm just going to do it in the content folder. I'm going to right click and create a new blueprint class of type actor. And I'm going to call it BP TV and open this up. And I'm going to add a plane. This is going to be our screen. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees like so. And I'm also going to play around with the scale of this because my videos were recorded in 1440p. So I'm going to make the scale of this plane the same as the 1440p resolution. So I'm going to change the scale on the X to 2.56. And I'm going to change it on the Y to 1.44. And now that is the same as a 1440p screen. I'm also going to add a light to this blueprint. So I'm going to hit add, search for rect, and add a rectangular light. And you'll see that this is shining sort of over to the right here. So I'm going to rotate it to face forward, rotate it 90 degrees. And what I'm going to do is sort of set the width and height of this light in the construction script in case you want to scale up this blueprint in your world and you sort of need to change the size of this light to suit. So scaling this up here won't actually change the source width and source height of this light. You have to do it in the details panel over here. So you can see here, you can adjust the width and the height, but instead of doing this sort of in the blueprint, I'm going to set it up in a sort of scalable way so that each time you place this television or this screen and you change its scale, you also have the option to change the source width and source height here. I'm actually going to set this as 216 and 103, and that is pretty close to being the same height and width of the plane that we've added here. So let's go to the construction script, and the construction script is kind of executed anytime you sort of place this blueprint in the world or move it. It will sort of be constructed and everything in here will be executed. So this is perfect for this sort of thing. We can grab our rectangular light here and we can set the source width and also set source height and plug all of these in together like so. And I'm going to promote these floats to variables. So I'm going to promote this to a variable, call it source width, and I'm going to make this instance editable and exposed on spawn as well in case we ever want to spawn one of these at runtime. So this just means that when we place one of these blueprints in the world, we can quickly go to the details panel and adjust the source width and also the source height of our rectangular light. So I'm also going to promote this one to a variable, call it source height. Sorry, it's been a long day and I've totally forgotten how to type. Source height, and this will also be instance editable and exposed on spawn. And the other thing I'm going to do on the construction script here is create a dynamic material instance of this this media player material that we created here. So basically this will allow us to set a different texture on the plane for each instance of the blueprint that we place. So I am going to right click and find a node called create dynamic material instance. The parent here is going to be this new media player video mat right here. So I'm going to select this one and then click the little arrow icon here to use it as the parent. And then I'm going to drag off the return value and promote this to a variable. And let's just call it material. And then I'm going to get material. And I'm going to right click here and convert this to validated get. And this just gets this variable, and if something has already been stored in this variable, this will be valid. And if it hasn't, then it will not be valid. So basically, the first time that this executes, it will create a dynamic material instance and store it as this variable material. And then we are going to set that material as the material for our plane. So I'm going to grab my plane here and set material. Plug this material into the material right here. And so the first time this executes, it will create a dynamic material instance, store it here, and then set the material of the plane as this material. And if this has already been created, then isValid will execute. And what we will do then is we'll drag off the material here, and we're going to set texture parameter value. And this will also plug in here, like so. So if it hasn't been created before, it will do this stuff, and then it will set the value of the texture parameter. The texture parameter that we're setting is this one that we called media texture. You want to make sure that you spell this exactly correctly in your blueprint. So you can just copy paste the name of that parameter, media texture, and then you want to paste it into the parameter name right here, or type it in exactly as so. Now, the value of this, we will also make a variable and make it instance editable, just as we did with these ones here, so that we can easily set this when we place our blueprint. So I'm going to drag off of here, promote this to a variable, and call it media source texture. This is the texture that was created when we applied this video to this media player. It created this media texture, and this is what we're going to drop into that variable right there. So make sure that this variable as well, select it and make it instance editable and exposed on spawn, like so. And that's it for the construction script. Actually, before we leave here, let's create default values for our source width and source height. So I'm just going to make those what we set the source width and source height as here to make it fit this sort of default size of this plane. So let's make this one, what was it? 216 and 103. So we'll make this one by default 216 and this one 103. And then let's head over to the event graph. So here on begin play, what we're actually going to do is play that video, that media source on the media player. So let's create a few more variables here. Let's create one and call it media player. And this will be of type media player object reference. and we'll make that instance editable and exposed on spawn. And we'll get that variable and we will open source. This will basically open the video. And the media source right here, I'm going to select this one video that I imported as the default right here, but we're going to change that anyway. So I'm going to select it, and then I'm going to promote that to a variable, and I'll just call it media source. And the other thing we want to do is basically set the we're going to set a source texture for this rectangular light, so it sort of projects the light of the video that's playing. It's a really cool effect. You'll see what I'm talking about in a moment. So if we go to the event graph, actually what I might do is just show you how this looks without setting the source texture of that video that's playing on the rectangular light. So I'll leave this as is for now, except the media player, I'm going to set the default value to be the media player that we created, and the media source is already selected. So if I get our television blueprint and drop it into the world, now I've got a TV, and I'm going to hold Control L and move the sun down so it's a little bit darker and hit play. And basically what we've got going on here is the rectangular light, for starters, is just shining just normal white light. What I can actually do is just deactivate the rectangular light. I'm just going to set the intensity to 0 for now, just to show you sort of what's going on here. So you can see a bit of light on the ground from the video, and it is basically from the emissive of the material. So if we open the material here, we plugged RGB into emissive color, and that is what's creating this light that's shining on the ground. But if you want it to be a bit more intense and sort of a bit more varied with the video, what you can actually do is set this rectangular light to project the light of the video from the media source texture onto the walls and the floor and whatnot. So I'm going to change the intensity back to something like 1500 on that light. And as I said, this is just projecting sort of white light at the moment. But then what we can do is go to the event graph and get our rectangular light. And we are going to set source texture. And the texture that we're going to set it as, so we can get our media source texture and plug this in right here. We still need to set this texture when we place it. So this doesn't have a default value. At the moment, we can just set the default value as the media texture right here in our new folder. So I'm just going to select that, click the little arrow icon and set it as that. And then if we hit play, you'll see that the light in front of the TV is sort of based on whatever's in the video, which is pretty cool. It can be kind of hard to see there. So what I might do is just scale this up. And you can see that the source of the rectangular light, the source width and source height doesn't match up. So over here in the details panel, we've got the source width and the source height right here, and we can adjust that to match the size of the screen that we've created, like so. And now just the sort of different colored light that's emitted by that rectangular light will be a bit more obvious. It's also quite dark, so I might just increase that intensity to 2500, something like that. Nice. And this might seem overly complicated, but the reason that I've done it this way is so that this is scalable, so that you can sort of create multiple instances of this screen to play multiple different videos. So I'm actually going to duplicate this blueprint like so. And now what if we want to make this play a different video? Well, it just is a matter of swapping out over here in the details panel these different assets right here. It looks like we didn't actually set the media source as instance editable and exposed on spawn. So that's my mistake. All of these variables that we created, you do want to set as instance editable and exposed on spawn. And that just means that when you have multiple instances of the blueprint, you're able to change those variables for the different instances so they can be different. So now we've got the media source down here as well. That was my mistake. And so all you'd want to do to set this up to play a different video is I'm going to go to my other folder here and I'm going to import a different video really quick. There we go. And then we want to right click, go to media, media player, video output media texture asset, hit OK, and then open this up and yep, that's the one. Select the correct video. This is just the game animation sample set up to work in true first person, which is, I was just playing around with it. It's a little bit janky. I would make a tutorial on this, except it doesn't work perfectly. It has a lot of problems and it's not very scalable, so it's not really something worth making a tutorial about. If I could make it better, then I would make a tutorial about it, but there you go. So now that we've applied this video to this media player, this media source to this media player, and I've checked loop, I'm going to save that and close that. And then it's created this texture as well, and that is basically all we need. So we can select this second screen and we can grab the media texture and drag it onto media source texture. We can grab the media player, drag it onto media player, and the media source and drag that onto media source like so. And now if we hit play, it will play two different videos, and you can see by the light on the ground there that it is all set up correctly to work with that different media source. Now, I made this darker by putting the sun down, but something really cool that you can do is just hold Alt and duplicate the floor and bring it up. And then if I hit play, it's a vibe. Nice. Guys, that's pretty much it. That's all I set out to show you in this tutorial. But just before we finish up, there's a couple of other things that you can do to play around with this and the Megalights settings. So what you can actually do is go to the actual rectangular light in your blueprint and search for Megalights. And you'll see you've got allow Megalights here, and you've also got the shadow method for the Megalights. So it's set to default here. You could change it to ray tracing or virtual shadow maps. I'm going to change that to ray tracing. And what you can also do is find your post-process volume. Where's my post-process volume? There it is. And you can also search for Megalights in the post-process volume, and you can enable Megalights as a rendering feature in your post-process volume. If you hover over there, you can see a sort of breakdown of what that means right there. But there's a couple of other options that are available to you. Nice. Guys, if this tutorial has been of any use or value to you whatsoever, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.